Well, we are very excited this morning to be joined alongside a very familiar face in Zag land. Doesn't really need any introduction, but we're going to do it anyways. All WCC first team, WCC player of the year, named a first team All American, Oscar Robertson Trophy, Naismith Trophy, and Lute Olson Award finalist, and was the Julius Irving Small Forward of the Year. Corey Kispert, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
So we've seen, I think, on Twitter, you've been playing a little golf since the season ended. Talk to us just about what your world's been like since the season ended at the end of beginning of April.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really hide much, so that's pretty much it. I got back from Spokane, and my first thing was just to step away
Yeah.
and not really be in a gym or touch a ball for a couple weeks, um, which is really hard for me to do because of the kind of things that will be happening for me here in the next couple of months. So I wanted just to kind of get back after it, but stepped away from the game, and it was really, really nice for me to kind of decompress and take it easy. And I played a ton of golf. Said my goodbyes and see you later's in Spokane, and the weather's starting to get really nice over there. So that helped a ton, and it was a lot of fun. And but now, kind of getting back to work a little bit, getting back into shape, and preparing for what's next.
Absolutely, man. I know it's we heard you're kind of quite the stick out on the golf course as well, man. The handicap sounds like it's doing pretty well for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've played some good rounds, so I think the handicap is dropping, which probably might not be good for my mental state. But I mean, I play it around a five or so.
Man, envious, man. I'll get there one day. It might be a while, but I'll get there. So tell us, man, coming out of King's High School, it's a 1A school. Obviously, you played some AAU ball, some circuit ball, things like that as well. But, I mean, for the average Zags fan, I mean, you probably back in the day, they saw you kind of out of the small school. I mean, did you see yourself in your game coming this far? I know it was a surprise to a lot of the fans who may not have known as much.
Yeah, I don't know about this far. I saw myself being a really good player and being, somebody that people recognized, and being a leader on a team by the time I was done and all that.
Yeah.
But I didn't really think that I would, it would end up like this. And that's just kind of a credit to just putting my head down and not really listening to people who told me I wouldn't be like this. That's kind of been my mantra all 4 years. There's been a ton of people who have written me off, and especially it's interesting, like the fans that you think are kind of closest to you are the ones to like write you off when things go bad, like about faster than anybody else. So even though Gonzaga fans are some of the most loyal and loving and passionate, like, I mean, there's still people that are really cool with you when you're playing really well, and then forget about you when you're not. So but no, never thought I'd be here, and I was just excited for the journey ahead.
We've had a lot of fun watching your journey at Gonzaga. I mean,
Absolutely.
coming in as a freshman, starting right away. I mean, you made your imprint on Gonzaga very early. I'll tell you this, my late grandmother, you were her favorite Gonzaga player in program history by far. You were definitely her boy. And you're going to be a potential lottery pick. I mean, as you talk about what's coming up and how far your games come, share with us any feedback you receive from teams. What are you hearing as we get, closer to the draft process?
Yeah, well, what's really nice about going and trying to play in the NBA here very soon is like my game is like tailor made to the NBA this, like now. So, I mean, every team could use a big kid who could shoot, move, space the floor, make a play when he has to, and then is pretty safe and standard off the court, like not very, doesn't cause a lot of trouble and can lead the team and all that stuff. Every team needs one of those guys. So I'm really happy to be in that situation, and I'm also happy that this year turned out so well. So I don't have to really prove to very many people that I can do it. Last year, that was a lot of what the conversation was about. Was they watched me play, but they still had a couple questions about if I could actually do it. And this year, it's not really the case. So a little bit of a different kind of headspace and different conversation than a year ago today. rather than teams asking me like, can you play defense? Can you guard, 1 through 3 in the NBA? Or like, what's your range like out to the NBA line? It's a little bit more of like, teams are kind of vying to find themselves in my draft zone, and manipulating, like every team's manipulating their roster. So I kind of have to like look at that as the season ends. And I'm watching games now more as a student rather than a player, or as a fan. Sorry, a student more than a fan, and trying to figure out how I'd fit into these teams that are in the play-in or the teams that are in the playoffs. It's really fun. It's really, really fun. I'm kind of nerding out a little bit.
That's awesome, man. I can only imagine what that's like. That's got to be a cool switch to be able to kind of go to a new classroom for you in that sense. But you talked about last year, man, and that's actually something, we were talking about before the show. Obviously just that feedback you heard, and that's kind of a new thing for student athletes to be able to enter their name and get that feedback. How helpful was that for you, getting that feedback, and how much did this year just help your game and, based on what you heard?
Yeah, that's a question a lot of people really ask me, and I kind of piss them off when I answer it. I kind of piss them off when I answer it. Like, they didn't really tell me anything I didn't know. Kind of the 2 or 3 things that like I could think about before the interview started that they might mention that I needed to work on, they always did. And, things like, lateral quickness and movement, guarding your position effectively, putting the ball on the deck, that kind of stuff is probably the 3 that really stood out to me. And, teams sometimes said 1, sometimes said 2, and sometimes said all 3, but those were the 3 consistent things. So it was really easy for me to move on from that and be like, okay, great. Like, nothing new. Like, these teams want to see what I thought they wanted to see. So it's time to get to work. And I had been working so hard on it, even before those interviews and before those feedback sessions, feedback times. And so I had a really clear picture in my head going forward of what I really needed to do to make it happen. And I made the off season, much more beneficial.
I think we need to thank you because you made us look very smart when we started this channel. We did a season preview show.
Yep.
And I remember one of the main points we made is, how obviously big of a part of the team you're going to be. But if this team's going to be a national championship contender, Corey's going to need to, get to the rim. We all know Corey can shoot lights out, but he's going to be able to do this and that. And within the first 3 games, you made us look very, very smart. So thank you. I'll tell you that some of my favorite footage actually this year was the footage of you back at home when COVID happened, in the backyard, working on your game. Your dog plays some serious defense. I remember that. Talk to us just a little bit about, obviously, the way last year ended. Nobody wants to relive that, but how much of a surreal experience was it for you to be able to go back home and prepare for your senior season?
Yeah, that was interesting, man. And like the yard that you saw in the video, like right there. And I'm so thankful. I mean, that got built. I mean, we had like kind of a normal grass backyard, and when I was probably in 2nd grade or 3rd grade, then that got poured in, and we built and we kind of put that in. And I'd always been kind of the guy that would be like, I don't really like shooting outside. Like, you'd shoot and like the wind would blow your ball and you'd airball, like a bunch of different times. And then like, the rim isn't as great. So like the ball would bounce out, and I like shooting more inside because I could make more. So I just did that. But that's, I mean, it came in, perfect handy, this summer. And I would not be able to be the player that I am and have the season that I did if I wasn't able to spend, 2-3 hours out there every morning, working out or getting shots up and, hanging out with my dog. So it was such a blessing to have that. And I know a lot of people didn't. And, I'm really, really thankful for that, little advantage I had.
Definitely, man. No, it's always, good to see those little things at home come into play for you. But, obviously last year's team, there were a lot of leaders really on that team. I mean, yourself, Joel, Drew, Timmy, Jalen, and a lot of those, a lot of you guys are gone now this year. But you were still like kind of de facto leader of that team. Who do you see on this coming Zags team? Who do you see really filling those leadership shoes for you?
Yeah, well, I think if he wants to really make a big jump and really be the NBA player that he wants to be, I think it has to be Drew.
Yeah.
Just based off of the season that he had and how well he did at the end of the season. I mean, if you know Drew, you know he's just like a fun-loving kind of airhead, really. But he knows how to lock it in and and focus when he needs to. But like generally, he's like he loves a light mood and he just kind of goes with the flow and just super fun loving and stuff like that. But there's if you're a leader of a team, there's a time and place for that, and there's a time and place to kind of whip guys into shape too. So if Drew's able to kind of master that part and really kind of figure out what situations, what time work best for what, I think he has a chance to be a really good leader because he's a big enough personality that when he talks, people listen to him.
I have to share this Drew Timmy story really quick, and he's going to kill me for this. But Drew was, I'm sure, did you ever ref any of the Zags camps, like the team camps?
All the time.
Yep. And Drew was his first summer in Spokane. He was reffing the game. He's in his flip flops, and my brother was playing in it. And the game gets over, and my brother talks the whole time to the refs, and he's just in Drew's ear the whole time. And Drew just won't have any of it. And the game's over. And I said, do you have any idea who was reffing your game? He said, I don't know, some walk-on scrub. I'm like, yeah, try the dude that's going to be your favorite player in like 2 years. So I'm going to share that story with Drew sometime. But I could tell you this, like, watching him ref that game before he ever stepped on the floor, everything you needed to know about Drew Timmy.
Oh, yeah. Big, goofy, shows up probably 5 minutes after tip with his flip flops on.
Yep, that's exactly it.
That's standard. It's classic.
What I want to talk to you about, if you've played ball, I mean, we've all had a game, not to this level, but you've hopefully had a game that you're just lights out. You can't miss anything. And for you, that was that Virginia game. I mean, that was a lot of fun as a Zags fan. I imagine for you had a lot of fun as well. Talk to us a little bit about that game. It was one of those occasions that you could not miss anything. You probably wanted to get some more shots up after the game.
Truly. And honestly, it didn't, I was in such a zone that like, I kind of like woke up from my little like blackout and we were up by 20 or so with 8 minutes left and I have a sub at the table, like that's like, I'm just like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I never want this to stop. And, yeah, I mean, literally everything I threw up felt like it was going to go in and it didn't. If it didn't, it was really close. And Drew had a great game too. I mean, he had 28, he's career high in that game too. So we were clicking on all cylinders, and that was one of the first games we, had that year with fans in the building. So like, I mean, we played in Texas, and so fans were there, and that was really cool. It was just a perfect storm of kind of what Zag basketball is all about, and how good we can be against a really good defensive team in Virginia.
Yeah, definitely, man. This year's tournament obviously was just crazy and unlike anything we've ever seen just due to the pandemic that was, of course, going on. What was that like being in Indy and being in the bubble on the same floor as everybody for multiple weeks? I mean, was that easier or tougher than the other tournaments you've been in with kind of the differences and distractions?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was easier for us because we're kind of like we're like a basketball frat. That's just kind of the way we live. I mean, doors were wide open. Guys were kind of hanging out with each other. We had a bowling alley in the hallway. Like, I mean, plenty of stuff to do and plenty of ways to spend your time. And we all got along great. So, I mean, that didn't really, affect you much. But like that being said, like opening up, like this is a funny story. I have like the view I had in my room. We're on the third floor. And this kind of the higher rise building was behind like the building with like the front desk and the meeting rooms and stuff. And this one was bigger than the other one, but the front desk room was about 3.5, 4 stories tall. And I was on floor 3 behind it. And so I would open my window and literally there's a wall about 10 feet in front of my window. And it was like it looked like a gutter in between the wall and my window, like the most depressing thing ever. So it's like day 25 or whatever, however long we were there. And I get up and I open my window in the morning, try to let some light in, and I'm like, wow, I want to go home. Like I want to go home so bad. And so I mean, like it was just such a long grind, and such a long time to be in the same spot and not really go outside very much and see a lot of gloomy weather while you're inside. And so while it was easy to be with your teammates and we didn't really get very tired of each other very often, still wanted to go home pretty bad at the end of it.
Like a little Shawshank Redemption story there going on in Indianapolis. We were there. We got in for the Final Four, and it was weird. I don't know how much you guys got to go out, but it was so strange being in a huge city that normally would have, tens of thousands of people, and all the restaurants, the bars, the streets, they were doing like, the street fairs with music, and there was no one there. Like you'd see like Jeff Goodman sitting there by himself, and that's it. And it was just, did you guys get out of the hotel much? Did they let you guys go do much?
Yeah, I mean, well, pretty much. I mean, we could go, like, we left the hotel to go to practice. Like the convention center had like 30 courts, 40 courts. So we did that. But the only time we could go out, like out, was we leave the convention center, go across the street, and then like play. There's like, we could walk around and like hang out on the field of the minor league baseball stadium across the way.
Yep.
So we did that. And I mean, we played football, wiffle frisbee, soccer. I mean, like all the stuff you wanted to do out there was out there. So that was really fun to get outside, and you don't really realize how much fresh air makes a difference until you do that for the first time in a week. So that was really helpful. And other than that, it was in the hotel pretty much all day long.
Talk to me a little bit about your relationship with Coach Few. I mean, it seems like, through the years that I think from an outsider's perspective, you two are pretty close compared to a lot of players that have come through the program. I think people who haven't met Fewy think he's this rigid, super stiff guy, but in reality, I mean, outside of basketball, he's a pretty laid back guy. Talk to us a little bit about the side of Coach Few that most people don't see.
Yeah, that's the the laid back. I mean, it's amazing how he does it, and it's 20 or 30 years of experience. When the season's over, it takes him about a week, and he flips the switch, and all of a sudden it's, oh, Corey, like, come out to the lake, man. Like our boat, we just put our boat in the water. We can get you behind the boat. Like, it's going to be fun. We'll get you in the sun. Or like, oh, how's your girlfriend doing? Or, oh, your parents, they're such great people. Are they doing okay? Right. And like, it goes from basketball, like 100% basketball to like really the nicest guy in the world that you'll talk your ear off. And I think that's really smart on his part, because I think he realizes that he's so competitive that if he were to do that part during the season, he'd get some wires crossed, and he might step over a line or two that he didn't mean to. So, I mean, it's just the experience that he has as a coach to know when to turn it on and know when to turn it off, know when to be the bad guy, know when to be your friend. And I didn't get that for a long time. I didn't understand that. I'm like, why can't you just be my friend all the time? And but over the years, obviously he's gained my respect, and obviously I have his. And so, this year it was almost like he treated me like a coach on the floor a little bit more, very respectful of my game, really wanted to listen to what I had to say. And, trusted me in a lot of moments, in a lot of, places that he wouldn't have trusted me, a year or two ago. So I have the ultimate respect for Coach Few. He's a great person, a great family man, strong man of faith. And he has that, coaching calendar and coaching thing figured out. And obviously he's done a pretty good job of it, I would say.
Yeah, I have to agree with that, man. I got to ask though, I remember seeing this season, Admon Gilder had a live on Instagram where you busted out the Mark Few impression, which was fantastic, man. That one had me rolling. I gotta ask though, do you have the best Mark Few impression on the team?
Yes. Yeah, I mean it's not close.
That was quick.
Yeah,
That's-
I was like,
no,
that's a
and
fine
then
answer.
I think if you asked everybody on the team who has the best Fewy impression, they'd say Corey. I really do. I think that it would be unanimous for me.
I have to tell you, so my dad before your time was a WCC official, lived here in Spokane, and he used to like go officiate a lot of the practices. My brother and Mark's son are the same age, and they were pretty close. And when you did that, because I don't think many people have ever actually heard him like in practice, I'm like, it's spot on. Like if people actually knew what he sounded like, you could go tour on like the comedy circuit and do it. It was.
Oh, I'm totally like exaggerating the whole like nasally voice thing. And, like it's definitely like the most extreme version that he ever is.
Sure.
But that's part of the reason why it's so good is it's so extreme and it's so outrageous. But
Absolutely.
I mean, you can definitely recognize who it is.
Yeah, that's for sure, man. That's I didn't really expect a different answer there. I knew it was a spot on impression for you, but one thing we've been trying to do with these interviews, man, is just give us a story. Obviously, you've been in Spokane and Gonzaga for 4 years, man. Give us a story, whether it's on the court or off the court, that Zag fans have most likely never heard.
Great question. I'm trying to sift through ones that would be okay to share. That's probably the first one. All right. Well, I had my freshman. So my freshman year, I lived with Joel for 2 years. I lived with Joel my freshman and my sophomore year, and it was really interesting because to begin with, he was he was straight off of the plane from France, and he took English classes and he spoke English in those classes in France, but you don't really speak the language until you're in you're in it. And so he was really shy and really like kind of introverted into himself for about 3 months because he didn't really know what to say to people, and he got nervous, trying to talk to people in English. But what I did notice is that he played his PS4 all the time. And the way we had it set up in our rooms is, there was 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, and then there was like a common kind of area where the kitchen was and couches and stuff. And he put his PS4 out there just so we could, like, instead of like coming home from practice and going in our own rooms and closing the door, like we had a chance to kind of like hang out and talk and get to know each other a little bit better. And that was, huge for our friendship. And also, had, great talks about basketball and all that stuff, but played his PS4 a lot. And I noticed that he played FIFA a ton. And, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna see how good this guy really is. And so I'm like, hey, can I play? And he's like, yeah. And so, smacks me like 4-0, 4-0, 3-0. Like it's not even close. And I'm like, okay, this isn't funny anymore. Let me find somebody else. And so I get a friend of mine or another teammate comes in, Joel smacks him. And all of a sudden it's turned into like this little like, merry-go-round of like people that I'm bringing in to play Joel in FIFA. And he's just smacking everybody. And the one time I brought in a friend of mine who ended up being one of my roommates the last 2 years I was there. He's a Seattle kid. I met him in high school and played basketball against each other, and I bring him in, and he beats Joel, and it's the first time I saw Joel lose in FIFA in about 4 months. Ooh. It was like all through the winter, and Joel finally loses to this guy, and I lose it. And I was really excited, but I was also kind of disrespectful too about how happy I was that this kid Jack beat Joel in FIFA. And Joel like head down trying to laugh about it, went into his room, like didn't see him for the rest of the night. So it kind of got under his skin, but now Joel doesn't really play it. Like Joel like plays other games now and he's a lot better at other stuff. But for a long time he was the man in FIFA, and I would pull anybody I could find off of campus and brought him in and try to beat Joel. And it didn't happen until Jack decided to show up.
That's another, I mean, how far his game has come from I think he was 17 when he stepped on campus.
Yeah.
And another guy, I mean, you coming out of Kings, you come in, but you looked the part of a Division I basketball player. Joel was tiny. I mean, I know Few even wasn't sure if he could ever really contribute. And watching how far Joel has taken his game to,
Amazing.
again, another potential lottery pick. I mean, having played alongside him, I mean, what do you expect from Joel at the next level? I know we expect huge things.
No, and he's only getting better. Like even though he's not 17 anymore. I mean, he's 20, and that's still pretty young. Or 20, he's 21 now. And I mean, Joel, I have the most respect for Joel I think out of anybody I've ever played, because I mean, you said it and you kind of understated it. Like, Joel had to fight uphill for everything he earned here, and Coach View was not sure that he could play at this level, and that's part of the reason why Tommy was so important to Joel. Is Tommy fought for him, and Tommy tried to keep Coach patient and stuff, and you would see flashes, and the more flashes you saw, the better he could get. And it wasn't easy for Joel at all, ever. And I mean, he redshirted his freshman year, and then barely played his sophomore, or his redshirt freshman year. Second year barely played, and that took a toll on him, and it really kind of forced him to get in the gym and work, and it ended up working out perfectly for him. And so I'm so proud of him, and I think, like you said, he's going to be an amazing NBA player. I mean, he's going to be big, tall, lanky point guard, really good vision, sees the floor, super smart. Joel's one of the smartest people I know. Just thinking the game and understanding where guys are going to be. So whoever drafts Joel is going to get a really good one. And I know he's ready for the next step, and he's paid his dues at Gonzaga. That's for sure.
Your game obviously can go a lot further than it currently is, but I think most people would agree that your game's pro ready. I mean, you're in college basketball. There may not have been a guy this season who was more ready to just step on an NBA floor and contribute than where your game is right now. I mean, there's a lot further you can go. I think Joel's one of those guys that I've been pounding this drum for a long time, that I think 5-7 years from now, this is going to be a guy who I could potentially see making all-star teams, NBA first team, because he has such a high ceiling. We've watched how far his game has gone at Gonzaga. I mean, he's just scratching the surface with his talent. So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. The other guy I want to talk to you about is who we all know about, and that's Jalen. I mean, the kid comes into Gonzaga more hyped than probably any recruit in Gonzaga history. And to not just live up to that hype, but I think the things that we've been hearing, we all know how good he is on the floor, but the things that we've been hearing around the program are that for as high of a recruit, a guy that's going to go probably top 3 in the draft, it sounds like he's pretty level-headed. Like, the kid's pretty humble, has a good head on his shoulders. That's pretty rare for a kid that comes out of high school as hyped as he was.
Yeah, I mean, you kidding? Like, he had every reason to kind of like, take plays off, kind of, if things weren't going his way, to kind of shut it down or whatever. But that's just not the way it's not the person he is. And that's not the way he plays. Like, that's why the reason he came to Gonzaga, and the reason he told me about it, he was like, I wanted to win the right way. I could go anywhere I wanted to, get 25 and, improve my stock that way. But he's like, I wanted to do it the right way. I wanted to win a ton of games. I wanted to play basketball with really good players who are going to make me better. And, if the stats and the wins and the big moments came with that, great. And, sure enough, they did. So the thing about Jalen is, not only is he, like a little mini Russell Westbrook on the floor, he's also like one of the smartest. I mean, I talk about Joel. Jalen's the same way, one of the smartest basketball minds I've ever seen. Like, literally, for an 18-year-old, you say something to him about, like, oh, hey, did you see this? And he's like, no, I didn't. And then the next play, boom, corrects it. Like, literally the next play. And he never misses a beat, more than once. He always is like a step ahead. And that's the reason why he was able to run the team so well this year at a point guard position that's not easy to do at GU. It's a pretty tough spot to fill. Was incredible. And then obviously, you know, everyone saw his talent, everyone saw his athleticism, everyone saw how good he was. But I was just more impressed with, like you said, the things he did off the floor and the, you know, the way he approached the game too, that really blew me away and really, you know, makes me so excited for his next 5 years, because I know he's going to work even harder.
I've got one last question for you. I mean, even the last 5 years, you saw it from your time at Gonzaga, the program just continues to hit a new ceiling. We think like, okay, this is about where they're going to settle in, and it just keeps going. And you look at this recruiting class with Jalen's teammate Chet, you know, all these guys coming in, Hunter, Nolan, Caden out of Battleground is just a stud. I think the national narrative that may never change is, you know, why would these guys go to Gonzaga? Why would they play in the WCC? You know, why would they not want to go challenge themselves in a better conference? Tell us what these people aren't seeing. Why GU? Why is Gonzaga now essentially the Duke of the West Coast, if you will? What are people not seeing?
I mean, you kind of get a glimpse of it and people talk about it in interviews. You know, they talk about the people here and the way that we play and the way that you get coached. And, you know, first of all, even though like we do win a ton of games in our conference, outside of that, no one gives you anything. No one's kissing your ass, not one person. And that's gotta feel good for a guy who's, you know, at a Jalen or a Chet level coming out of high school. Like, I mean, maybe some guys are pretty self-centered, but the people that come to Gonzaga want to get challenged and want to get pushed by the people around them. And, you know, that no one's giving them anything from, you know, Coach Few down to like the last walk-on off the bench. Like everyone wants to compete and everyone wants to, you know, go at each other. And that's the reason why we get so good year in and year out. And then just the community as well. Like, honestly, that's the truth. And you know, family, the word family gets overused, but you know, I've never experienced anything like it, and I don't think I ever will. The kind of, you know, deep water that we got into as a team, you know, deep connections and like lifelong stuff that you just don't see everywhere. And you know, the coaching staff and the guys who are willing to facilitate those conversations are happy to do it, and the players buy into that mission, and it makes playing basketball here like a full person experience. You know, it's not a 6-month stop for a one and done who forgets about it a little later and says, you know, like, oh, I'm an alumni of whatever, but like it's a full on, like, you're part of the family now type thing, and it's special. And you know, I was in it for 4 years and it changed my life. And, you know, for a guy like, you know, Chet or Jalen or whoever is coming in after them, it's going to change their lives too, because I don't think that kind of culture is really going anywhere, especially with Coach Few at the helm. And he has built a Duke in the West, and, you know, I'm proud of him. And I don't think he would want to change a thing, and I don't think he wants to get too big either, to be honest. I think he wants to kind of have that low key charm, that small school charm, and kind of make the big time in a little time kind of place.
Corey, thanks for carving out some time with us this morning.
Absolutely.
Sharing some stories with us, and everything just you've given to Zag Nation. I know we all appreciate your time here, and the best is yet to come. I mean, I know both of us, I can speak for both of us. We are so stoked to just watch your basketball journey continue and watch you take your game to the next level.
Well, thank you guys. And I appreciate you having me out. It's been a lot of fun.